First up is Ekaterina. Okay, this has come a long way. Definitely think the animation has improved. I like some of the facial expressions there. I think the camera is really problematic there. I would really simplify that. Just way too many camera movements and shots. Um, Probably, and then as far as the lighting, I think it's just much too contrasty. I'm so what it looks like to me is there's a spotlight just off screen to the right, and then this gets completely black. And I guess what I would imagine doing is something more like, imagine there's a window on this side of the room, so hit it with like maybe a big area light from this side, a nice kind of slightly tinted blue daylight coming from this side, and then maybe a warm light to fill in from the other side. But it's very contrasty, very bright here, very dark, on this side. So and then this big cast shadow I find very distracting. So not real thrilled with the lighting choices. I think you should take another pass at that. Um, and when he sets the thing down, I would do a nice little hold on that. Maybe a little hold before he sets it down, and then right afterwards. I like that, and I especially like that little eye dart that was there. And again, much too dark up here, and yeah, the crazy camera move. And that sort of looks like slow-mo. I don't know if it's meant to be. So let's take a look at the okay, in the Maya file, um, resolution gate, and overscan. Okay. And so let's just take a look at this stuff. Oh, that's just getting this guy. Okay. I'll just turn all objects off and select all of his controls. Okay. Let's put it back in that other camera view. Whoops, was it this one? Yeah, I think so. Okay. So, yeah, first thing I was saying is maybe like, let's kind of zoom in here a bit. Oh, it does kind of pop when he sets it down. You see that? I think you could do a better job of that. I think you somehow, I don't know, maybe you messed up the swap thing, the timing of that. Maybe you, let's, just going to turn this back on. Just going to delete the visibility keyframe off of that. Did you ever get it right on there? No, you didn't. Okay, well that's more the problem. So let me just make a little script to select. Whoops. Okay, just gonna grab that and middle mouse drag this up to the shelf as a mail script. Okay, so now I just have something to select that with, and select. Okay, so then let's see where this. So yeah, that never really got all the way there. I might move him a bit closer so his arm isn't quite so overextended. And let's get in closer here. I don't know why my rotate manipulators aren't showing up. Might need to restart Maya, which is incredibly annoying since I'm in the middle of this video. Jeez. Anyways, get that, get that right on there. It's a little closer, but get it exactly where you want it. So I would do that, and then I'm going to select everything. What's this? Let me get rid of this. And then what I'm going to do is add some in-betweens here, keys. Oops, wait a minute, let's do it after key, add in between to push all that stuff down. Make sure everything's selected when you do that. Hopefully it was. Key. Just using G to add a little more space there. So then when he puts it down, I'm going to middle mouse click here and hit S and just have a little hold there. Oh, why didn't it? Maybe my select script thing isn't working right. I guess it's not. Something's missing from there. Anyways, got kind of a moving hold there. And then this guy, let's turn our surfaces back on. This guy, actually I'm just going to get rid of this one. Just do this over again. So duplicate that, and then keyframe that off here, and then keyframe it on, and then this one keyframe it on here, then go back one and keyframe it off. Oops, I did that backwards. Keyframe it on here, and then go keyframe it off. Did I do that right now? I did it backwards. Oh, my timing's slightly off. Is that right? Yeah. No. This should be. Oh, I think I just didn't unparent the other one, that's all. So Shift P. Okay, so that should stick now. There we go. Alright, let's watch that. From here, it's slightly off, but just because my manipulators aren't showing up. And then what's next? So yeah, this cuts okay. I might put a blink in there or something. That looks alright. This is problematic, this whole crazy camera move here. So that's just so, yeah, just keep it simple. Maybe you like it right here or something, like that one. So what I would say is, let's get rid of this one. Let's make all of these stepped, tangent, stepped. I just shift right mouse click, shift click and drag to select all those. So it goes here. Or maybe that one's better. I kind of like that one. Maybe I'll get rid of this one. And then move this one a little bit earlier. And then yeah, there's just way too many cuts here. So I mean, honestly, I would just do this. Just go blow those all away. Just maybe you could have one more at the end like you had there. Like, I'm not sure I really like that one though, because I feel like it's a bit too tight. What's this one? Like maybe more like this one, and then get rid of all these in between. Whoops. And then move this one back. So something like this. And then yeah, it looks like slow motion to me. Maybe it's supposed to be. So let's just watch this whole thing now. There's still something funny in there. The way he moves kind of fast. Oh, you do have a blink there. That movement looks okay, but this looks like super slow-mo. So I think you should speed that up, and then yeah. So just way less camera cuts at the end. And then for the lighting, let's go to light. Let's go to low. There's a bunch of area lights, but they look like they're all turned off. Intensity was all like this super low intensity thing, and then this fireplace. Yeah, almost all the light was just from this one thing. Can we change this to like a area light? Yeah. And then I would give it like a slightly blue tint, just a little bit. Maybe let's up the intensity a touch. And then maybe kind of imagine oops. I'll call this window light instead. And then, I mean, maybe it's not the look you're going for, but sort of bear with me for a bit. Maybe we could get this actually bigger. We might turn the intensity down a little bit. I might tilt it down. Yeah, all that moving up, it's kind of good. And yeah, that's a bit better. So like there's a big window there. And then, yeah, we're going to have to turn the intensity down. Maybe even lower. And then fill it in from this side, maybe from that angle or something, like there's a door there or something we can imagine. So I just, it's being a little slow. I just did duplicate, and then over here or something like this, and then this one can be a little sort of tungsten-ish, something like that. And so I don't know, I like something like this a lot better. Just turn everything on here. Will this cast decent shadows in here? Oh, they're on. They're just need to render. No, I'm not going to cast shadows. So yeah, I mean, maybe you could adjust the intensity of these things. Maybe this one's a bit dimmer. So you can still get a darker side and a lighter side, but it's a little bit more filled in. Could be something like that. Anyway, play with the lighting, get a little more well lit. But yeah, I mean, I think overall you've got a nice piece here, and I think with a few fixes it could be better. Next up is Natalie, and yeah, there's not much to look at or talk about here. It looks like you got some lights in there. You said you had some problem moving the character. I've got your file open here. I like to hide everything, show none, show NURBS curves and show polygons. Yeah, I'm not having any problems, so not sure what the issue you're having is moving the character, although it looks like you didn't do the weighting on his head. Yeah, so tell me a little bit more about the trouble you're running into, and I can try and help, but it seems to be working fine to me. Although it's weird that this is moved off of the character. It's kind of strange. I don't know how that got offset. The other thing, as I've mentioned several times, is I encourage you to reference the character into the file rather than import it. That's back in module 11. I think it's module 11, page 11. Yeah, that's it. Exactly. Module 11, page 11. It describes referencing and how to reference your character in and why you do that and all that. So please review that information. It's a better way to work, and since you haven't done any animation anyways, you might as well do that. Yeah, get some animation done. I don't think there's too much to say about the lighting. It's okay. I don't really like these kind of weird shadow shapes here, that big spotlight. So maybe try using area lights instead of spotlights, just to get rid of some of these weird shapes, and try to think more about a sense of where the light is coming from, what the light sources are, what colors they would be, the light sources and those kinds of things. Like maybe there's some, if this is a window, maybe there's some light coming in from here. If this is a door, so maybe this is outdoor light coming from the back, and maybe there's some indoor light coming through this doorway, or maybe there's a light overhead, or maybe behind the camera there's a light source, whether it's another indoor or outdoor light, you could decide. So, make some of those decisions and do your lighting based on that. Next up is Yone. Alright, yeah, this has got a nice look to it. I like that you've done sort of the depth of field thing. I think it gives the scene a good look. I like some of the textures are good. I think sort of struggling a little bit with the floor. I find it a bit distracting. Maybe try to do something a little simpler. Also, these are kind of stretched out. I think you might be able to do a little bit better of a job, like just kind of justifying your lights more. Like it looks like there's a light kind of more or less coming from, well, there's one light coming from this thing. Well, we can open up in Maya and really see where all the lights are. There's also a big kind of obvious seam here, so you might want to shift that over. And then it'd be good to see him in smooth preview. Also, be careful. I think you're going to have to at least do some animation on the tail, especially because I guess you are doing some animation on the tail. Yeah, it looks like it actually goes through the body there. So maybe, do another kind of touch up on the tail. But overall, this is coming together pretty well. Let's take a look at the Maya file. One thing that is important when you submit the file, use archive your scene and turn in the zip file, and that way I get all the folders that are included, and then I'll have your textures, and then I could, for example, help you with textures and also see them in Maya. So make sure you use file archive scene when you turn in your Maya file, and not just the Maya file itself. There's something, yeah, you might want to press 3 on him so he's smooth. I think you get a much nicer look, so if you rendered him out with him in smooth mode, it's going to look better. I'm a little struggling with some of the stretching there, but show, where are your NURBS curves? They must be hidden a layer. Okay. And then I'm just kind of want to take a look at, so how far is this rotating here? feels like it's you're struggling with the kind of the smoothness of this when you stretch that far. It's kind of breaking down a little bit. Is that character? Yeah, I should be able to select that now. Oh, no. Why can't I select the character? That's being weird. Anyway, yeah, I don't know where we're getting kind of those. You might want to just try to take a look at your weight on your rig. As I've mentioned in more than one video now, you would be better off having referenced the character rig in, because then you can make fixes on your rig and it would work for, other files. And if last week, you could refer to the video of last week where I demonstrate how to export the animations and then reference the rig back in. But I'm guessing you just decided you're not going to do that. So we'll just leave that. Oops. And yeah, I can't, without having, without the textures and stuff, I can't really get a great sense of the lighting. But yeah, let's take a look at the lighting. I don't know why it's disappearing when I'm doing that. Might have to restart Maya or something. So let's just take a look at where all the lights are. I'm just going to go to lights here, and you've got quite a lot of lights actually. I would tend to think, yeah, okay. So you've got these various different area lights. I think that, is that one casting shadows? That one's got shadows on. I think maybe for some of these, try turning the shadows off for some of these, because in the movie file, it looked like it was just casting too many shadows. Let's take a look at that again. So you've got this real hard shadow here, and I mean, unless you had kind of a real direct sunlight hitting him from back, which maybe you're saying you do, you wouldn't really see that shadow there. I guess there is supposed to be some really bright sunlight hitting him from the back, if that's the idea, which I suppose is okay. I think I could see where potentially there could be sunlight, but I would more imagine a light that's kind of being filtered off of through the tree branches and bounce off the trees, rather than, because we're not seeing like a clear blue sky here that would have a direct sunlight rays hitting from behind. So, and this looks very bright here, and the floor looks very bright. So I would tone down this light, make it more diffuse, maybe cast some less extreme shadows there. But then you've got a lot of shadows going on, because you've got that shadow on the ground, you've got these shadows behind him on the wall. So there's too many lights casting too many different shadows. I don't necessarily think the problem is as much with the lights themselves as with all the different shadows. And I think it's, yeah, again, the texture on this floor combined with these really hot lights hitting it is not so great. So, maybe go for, tone on the lights here, don't cast the shadows, and see if you like that better. I think the animation is coming along pretty well. Look out for some of your kind of in-between poses, like you're intersecting the head here. I believe I mentioned that last week as well. The arms at least this one looks kind of overextended there. So you might want to shorten that. Yeah, and as I said before, the tail's interpenetrating here, so you're going to want to fix that and just, I think, work a little bit more on the tail in general. But overall, the scene's looking really good. I think you're making good progress. Next up is Vincent. All right. So yeah, this is coming along well. As far as lighting concerned, I like that there's some thought about the different light sources. like the lighting over the bookshelf, the light from the window, and some other sorts of light hitting from this side. I think there's kind of too much going on with these shadows. I'd probably turn off the shadows for some of the lights, especially the one coming from this side. It's just casting a lot of these extreme shadows in here, and I would tend to think the indoor lighting would be more kind of a diffuse light that would cast less extreme shadows. Overall, the animation, I think, is just. I think that first part's okay, but this looks a bit slow. You might want to add some blinks in there. That looks pretty slow. And that looks slow, especially how slow his hands are moving. So I think you, overall, some like quicker movements and then moving into holds and stuff like that would be better. It's almost 30 seconds, which is really on the long side. Yeah, those would be my suggestions. You might want to just try taking all the animation and scaling it down. It's interesting. I like the look of the lighting here better than in the render you did. I'm guessing you did not do the hardware 2.0 render, as was explained in the module. I don't think you would have got all those different shadows if you did. Anyway, as mentioned in all my previous critiques, you might reconsider this big red AAU thing. It's not that I care that that's on there, it's that it looks like it was drawn with a mouse. Looks very odd. So if you do want to speed up your animation, one approach, at least as a quick starting point, is if you select all the controls and then triple click on here. I'll just lengthen this by a couple, like 705. Okay. Then I'll grab this little yellow thing by the end and just scale the whole thing down, then right mouse click, snap, to make sure they're on whole number keyframes, and then you can take a look at it. I mean, to me, that's already better. It's less than half the length. So I definitely think this could be sped up a lot. I mean, you can vary the speed a little bit more, having like slower parts and faster parts, and that would be a good idea. But right now, I think the thing overall is just way too slow. It just looks like super slow-mo. So speed the whole thing up, work on some of those details, touch with the lighting, less cast shadows, and keep moving forward. Okay, next up is Andrea. Alright, first of all, this is really good. Great work on this. I think there's like a lot of little areas where you can make some improvements. I'll just kind of point some stuff out. So first I'd say that I think the way her eyebrows move up, I might go a little faster and not quite so perfectly symmetrical, so one moves a little differently than the other. And maybe not so far. I mean, that distance looks pretty exaggerated, so maybe tone that down a bit. And then let's just play at normal speed. There's a little sort of pop in here. If you look, like right there, and we can take a look in the Maya file and see what's going on with that. There's kind of a couple little pops there and there with that knee. I think that's alright. I feel like this looks weird because it disappears, and I think you need to. I just think, if she needs to either really eat the thing or not, So you could have her like pantomime taking a bite and then throwing it. You could exaggerate her jaws opening up and swallow the whole thing like a snake would. You could have it shrink so she can just pop it in her mouth. But right now, I just think it looks funny how it just kind of disappears. Um, I like this is a nice touch. Have you got the camera view on there? That worked out well. And this is part I'm not real happy with is the way that she's sort of weightless here with her legs up in the air and stuff like there doesn't seem to be a sense of weight there, and then her whole body just rotates, but it's not really justified by anything. What you might try is, kind of like have this foot sort of braced against the side there, like where it is, and then have this leg fold down, and then have this leg fold down and follow it, and then rotate her body after the legs are resting, something like that. Because right now it's just her whole body moves en masse. And I'm a little afraid I'm going to look in there and find out that you've moved that main control, but I guess we'll see. So, yeah, all these are relatively small things. I think you're doing a great job on this, but let's take a look at the... by the way, I didn't talk much about the lighting, but I think that's a good sign. I think the lighting looks pretty good for the most part. Okay, let's look at this sort of glitchy thing first. See if we can figure out what is happening with this leg. So I think it's just maybe, trying to move too fast between these two keyframes. So it may be just a case of let's kind of zoom in a little bit here. Might be just taking this keyframe and moving this, splitting the difference a little bit. I think that's a little better. And then there's another kind of pop in here. And what I'm seeing, there's just a lot of keyframes there, so I might delete some of these out. That might do it right there. Oh, still kind of, maybe let's get rid of this one too. Okay. And let's go back to your camera view. Motion cam, I think. Yeah. I mean, this move, what I like about this is it looks like she's bracing her elbow there and using that leverage to help her kind of scoot her body in, because that arm was kind of holding in place. It might be even nicer if the hand was grabbing onto this, but at least this feels like it's sort of bracing her body so she can pull herself kind of inward like that. And this was what I was worried about. Yeah, let's not do that. I mean, it'll seem like more work, but as I've mentioned, I don't recommend using that. So instead, what I was suggesting was, take like this leg and this happened to me earlier where some of my controls are being weird on some of these files, but point the knee down, although that looks pretty weird in her crotch area, so maybe that's a problem. But at least, so you get the idea of where I was going with it. So that leg's down, and then maybe just get rid of these keyframes. Maybe this one. Oh. I want to get rid of, those as well. Okay, for that one. So yeah, like if this one leg laid down, And then this one, maybe started right after that first one. And then maybe at this point, she rotates her body. And you can even split it up where she rotated the head first or something. My stupid controls aren't working. Anyways, you'd have to do the arms also. But, just conceptually, kind of breaking up that movement so the different parts land at the same time. Oh, yeah, that doesn't look right there. Oh, I think I just have to get rid of these other. Where did I put that right here? Yeah, let's get rid of this one and these. Yeah, I mean, it needs a lot more work, but hopefully you're kind of getting the general idea there, of how, kind of breaking up the movement makes it feel more natural. And as I said, don't animate this control. But yeah, it's looking good. Keep moving forward, and nice work. And it's cool you got this thing figured out. That's a good deal. Yeah, but overall, I think it's a really nice piece. Next is Sharon. Yeah, I think it doesn't seem like the animation has changed from last time. From what I can tell, that first pose is kind of weird, and everything else looks a little slow. So yeah, I definitely need to work on that. From a lighting point of view, I don't know. It's one thing that's kind of bugging me is this ground. Oh, also watch out for these feet penetrating the floor. This ground is so bright, and then everything else is so dark. And so I feel like that's distracting because what you really want to focus is on the character itself, and there's some real dark shadows over here. And I mean, I would sort of go back to the reference images you have of like a boxing ring and look how that's lit, and try to emulate that same lighting for this character. I think that that'll go much better if it's just more lit. But then, and again, use some reference materials for the lighting. And yeah, I think that, yeah, like I said, it doesn't look like the animations changed much since the last time. We talked about speeding it up, centering the root over the foot that's carrying the weight. Get a little more attention to fingers, get some better poses at the beginning, because both the start pose and that looks weird. And there's a weird sort of, yeah. So, yeah, there's a lot of good progress in here, but some stuff to fix, so keep going. Next up is Elena, and it looks like you did not use the Maya Hardware 2.0 renderer according to the instructions. And the reason I'm saying that is just this kind of look of the reflectivity in the window, like the bent light and the reflections on stuff. It looks like a software render, I'm guessing. Could be wrong. That's what it looks like. So I'm wondering if that's where you had some of your problems. And it's not animated right now. We don't. It looks like we just have one frame or something. So, yeah, there's not too much to talk about. I think the lighting's okay. I think it's a little too extreme in the contrast, where there's some very bright edges here, and then very dark shadows there, very dark there. So I might try to even that out a little bit. Think about how the light would bounce out around in the room and make things a little bit more evenly lit. Next up is Sheen. Okay. Yeah, obviously the animation's not in here. Looks like you got some lighting going on, which is good. Looks like we've got some light coming in through the window. Maybe that's like the reflected light off the earth or something like that. Although I don't know if it will cast such a sharp shadow, but maybe it would. I don't really know. I think that the camera angles are hard to tell with the current animation, but that looks like kind of an odd angle, sort of above his head, looking down. But possible. But yeah, there's not too much to talk about the animation. Let's see if I can figure out what's happening with your Maya file. I'm in the Maya file, and the character does seem to be working. Maybe you can tell me more about what problem you were having with it. I did notice when I opened it that it was asking for originally it was asking for the Alien 21 Bindfoot one, but I replaced it with the Alien 22 Bindfoot weight because that came with the archive scene. So maybe that has something to do with it. Check your reference, that you're referencing the most recent working one into the scene. Yeah, and then if you want help with some stuff that's not working, please send me the files or archive the scene, and I'll take a look. But just with a quick check, it seems to be working. So let me know how I can help. Next up is Lindsey. So it's coming along. I don't know if you mean to be staying in stepped animation right now, but there's a lot of sort of pops in there. So I would take a look at your tangent types and making sure you have it where you want it. It's good that you got some facial expressions going. I like the idea that he grabs onto that, but when he first sets his hand there, that's when his fingers should wrap around. But it seems you set that there, and then you move, and it's not really even till here that they look somewhat convincingly wrapped around that. So would just make sure that happens all at once, but also really make some contact with it. You can see a big gap with it here, and the idea that he's bracing himself with it for his weight on that. Yeah, but the texture's looking good. I think the lighting's all right. I just think the big thing to focus on is the animation. So keep going and check those tangent types, and let me know if you need any help.